Hi there. Welcome to today's webinar. This is going to be a fireside chat between myself. My name is John Burg, and I am our VP Strategy here at TechC. We are the market leader in visual and multisensory AI automation for CX of the contact center. I'm joined by my colleague, Hagai Ben-Avi. You want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, John. My name is Hagai Ben-Avi. I'm VP Product at TechC. With TechC for about 7 years now. Thank you, John.
Great. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to all those that are watching live or on demand. By way of background, at TechC for the last about 8 years, we've been building visual and AI solutions for customer experience and more specifically, customer service experience. And the AI boom over the last year has been very exciting for us as a team that's been talking about AI, generative AI, and its implications in the enterprise, as well as delivering those solutions to about 1,000 leading enterprises around the world across multiple verticals for many years now. So very exciting to have you on board, Hagai, and would love to hear more about the market, the risks, what's real today, what's hype, and how you advise the best practices that you've established in the conversations you're having with many of our design partners, beta customers, and those already live with our AI solutions.
Yeah, you said the
So to
right word
start,
over there. You said the right word over there. We'll try to keep it as real as possible, not to do any name dropping or buzzwords. We'll try to keep it as real and focused as we can.
sure. Thank you. So the chat is open. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature. We will have time for a couple questions, hopefully at the end. And as always, if there's anything we discussed today that you'd like to discuss in a more private venue one-on-one, please feel free to reach out to us at techc.me, and we'd be happy to set up a consultation. So to start, Hagai, are we in an AI bubble?
Uh, Many people are using the word bubble to describe it, but no, it's not a bubble. We're at a very interesting cross point in the generation of AI. We're actually at the tipping point where AI becomes very widespread, very common, and the technology reaches a specific peak in which you can start to apply it in use cases and industries to which so far it didn't exist yet, which makes it a very interesting time to live in and to work in.
Sure. So, obviously there's a rush to invest in the NVIDIA, Microsoft, OpenAIs of the world, right? Those big leaders. Where do you see the practical impact within the enterprise setting for AI, let's say in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, let's differentiate between personal use, which this is what ChatGPT with OpenAI did about a year and a half ago, and to the enterprise world. The enterprise world has a different set of considerations. Mainly they need to keep their brand, they need to keep their their accuracy, and how do they treat their customers, their reputation. So we see it right now, the first steps of adopting it in the enterprise world, mainly when it comes to customer service and also into sales use cases. We see right now a very good traction in these areas.
Sure. So something that, in my conversations, at least with the market, there's many potential applications. And what I think we're starting to see, and love to hear more from you on this, is a shift from a generalist approach to AI, where we now have a large language model or some other generative AI solution that can potentially, fulfill a surface level of automation across multiple departments into more verticalization or specialization, where they're bringing greater depth to customer service, internal HR, accounting, inventory and order management, etc. So where are you seeing deeper, where do you see people diving deeper with customer experience automation and AI? And what do you see working?
So what are we seeing right now? And let's take a step back here regarding what you said. AI is being right now widely adopted with the buzzword of generative AI. We see the enterprise actually taking not what ChatGPT or other generative AI providers on the market did over the last 5 years, which was practically to crawl the internet. They now need to take their own knowledge base, their organizational process, and ingest it into the LLM. So you would look for the areas that are consuming the enterprise knowledge base and the process or the flows by these organizations. So for example, one very common place that we see, that's contact centers. Contact centers for two very specific use cases. One, I'm a tier 1 or tier 2 support agent, and I need to handle multiple support calls a day. That's like the kingdom of support processes and repeating support calls and predefined knowledge-based articles. That's probably the best fit for AI. Second use case within
Sure.
contact centers will be also among senior technicians and junior field technicians on the force when we examine the contact centers arena.
So we had a really interesting conversation about that last week, where we were discussing some of the challenges of simply uploading your documentation into, let's say, a secure LLM so you can make sure that you maintain your own IP. But the knowledge that's uploaded doesn't necessarily yield the answers, at least not at first, and the solutions that we would look at when we start looking at CX automation. So what do you see as the primary challenges, and what have we learned about the right way to create that cognition, to create that source of knowledge that can guide whether it's a tier 1 technician or in a contact center or an agent in a contact center or those frontline technicians or even contractors out there in the field?
That's something very interesting about that. It's that simple, right? Just take your knowledge-based articles, take your PDFs, push it into the LLM, and boom, the magic just happens. Well, we know customers who tried it on some of the biggest names on the market, like the leading contact center AI products by Google, by Microsoft, by others. And our customers have tried it. So it's not an assumption or an educated guess. This is what we've seen for the last 12 months. Customers spent months, and I repeat it, months, ingesting their knowledge-based articles, ingesting call transcripts, ingesting support flows, and trying to yield something which is meaningful for their support agents. The result was usually the following. They spent months working on it. They invested between tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get it to work. They invested multiple resources, and they got very low accuracy results, extremely low accuracy results. Meaning eventually they ended up with something that you can say, okay, I've invested some time, I have my own LLM, ingested with my own data, meaning it's that simple, right? But there's nothing tangible, nothing useful that your organization can actually work with. Meaning it's a nice
Sure.
demo eventually, nothing more than this.
So let's unpack that. What have you seen are, in theory, being able to ask a question to a generative AI copilot or assistant and having it be able to reference the right documentation, pull that up and provide, an answer to the agent should be meaningful. Is the issue that it's not accurate? Is the issue that it's too expensive? Is the issue that agents aren't using it? Where is this falling short today?
In short, all of the above, but let's take it one by one. So first of all, let's talk about the cost of the tokens. If you don't know how to manage your LLM works in let's call it a recursive way. Meaning, let's say that you ask it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 different questions. Each time, all the set of questions and answers are being set on top of your last question. And if your token consumption grows exponentially,
That
and
means it
then
will cost more.
meaning it will cost dramatically more. Your cost will go through the roof. And there are no guardrails. There are no boundaries to actually protect you or to verify that LLM actually achieve your business objective. because you've just pushed tons of information into the LLM. You can go wild with it, meaning ask it anything you like, ask it to do whatever you like. You can ask it to write an article to summarize what are the best way to reset a pin code on something. And you'll get a lot of knowledge, but nothing really useful. So we've seen all of this with customers said, that's it. I've spent more than enough money on this. It just doesn't work for me. Period. As simple as that. So cost will be probably number one. Number two, and you may have heard this term before, um, LLM hallucination or catastrophic forgetness. That the LLM well, it simply start to hallucinate, meaning LLM are designed to always generate an answer, no matter what. That's the beauty of the technology, and that's also the downside of the technology. Meaning it is designed, it is planned, even if it doesn't have all the right information, it will try to make up for it and give you something to work with. Now, when you are in a high school kid and you need an article for tomorrow because you failed to do your homework on Winston Churchill, that's great, okay? But when you are a large telecommunication provider or a large enterprise, that doesn't matter. And the LLM starts hallucinating in front of your agents or in front of your customers, that's your reputation on the line.
Sure. So let's talk about that risk for a minute. Obviously, or let's start with the upside. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about the contact center. Let's zoom back out a minute. Um, Obviously, there's tremendous upside to automating customer experiences, right? Everybody dreams of that. Let's not call it a chatbot, but that AI agent that's able. It's multisensory. It can speak. It can see, and there's a huge vision, and that's what you've been building with Sophie AI.
Right.
Um, Now, there's a vision of AI ultimately taking over all customer interactions, but obviously that's a very risky proposition. So you've been advocating in our conversations for a more phased approach. Where would you say organizations should start, and how do you get to that world where the right experiences are automated with AI, with the right AI, not always generative? And what does that evolution look like within the enterprise?
I think that the last word you used actually demonstrates the right approach to generative AI. It's an evolution. It's not a revolution. We need to distinguish between the two. Meaning, think about generative AI, an agent powered by LLM, as your new enterprise or employee. That's your new employee. Now, at first, you need someone to train and coach this employee. That's the first step. The second step, you need someone to mentor him, to mentor your new employee. You want someone to shadow him. You want someone to walk him through, meaning you still want the experienced employee next to him for some time before you let him actually go on his own, before he moves from crawling into walking. That's the phased approach that we actually learned that we should take with Sophie AI, meaning we need to learn to walk, crawl before before we can walk the walk. And we need to do it by when we are maintaining cost, security standards, the privacy, and far above anything else, our customer's reputation. You can let, and
Right.
we had, by the way, an example of a customer that simply, by the way, through a bunch of knowledge base articles, he took just the general foundation models and he put it on a pilot with his customers. Eventually, the LLM actually recommended to the end user, by the way, an actual customer, move to the competition. They have a better coverage in this area because no one put some boundaries around it and no one coached the LLM to refrain from going in this direction. So just think about it. That's the new employee that was not well coached.
Right. So when we look at this from more of a program management or from a CX automation, right? Because we're talking about more than the contact center here. We're looking at things like do you recommend starting with generative AI, starting with a simpler maybe computer vision? How do you move from what we call internally hold as gold, right? Augmenting your contact center through some automation through to learning within the contact center augmenting your agents' answers to solutions. Talk to us a little bit about that evolution.
So the evolution starts with understanding how AI works. AI works and AI is as good as the data you feed into it, meaning garbage in, garbage out, right? But
Sure.
good raw material in, and you get a good output that you can actually work with that has some value. So you need to start with aligning your documentation. Starting with Taxi Hold is Gold, with a visual foundation models offered by Taxi to actually gather more and more information from the day-to-day use cases into the
Can you
backend.
explain what that means? What is hold as gold? I think this is a shorthand that we have with each other that some of our prospects may not be familiar with.
Hold is Gold, meaning that whole time on the IVR, while you're listening to some weird music saying, "You are number 13 today, please hold. Your call is very important to us." We're converting it, Taxi, into gold time, meaning while you're holding on the line, take images, and we'll try to assist you by analyzing them in real time and troubleshooting it. And even if we can't solve it for you, we'll put you in front of the queue because we've gathered all the data from you. So when you actually reach an agent, call doesn't start with, "Hello, how can I help you today?" It actually starts with, "I've seen the data you've uploaded. I've seen everything that you've tried to do. Let's take it from here." And then criteria like AHT or our FCR, you can really take them down. That's the goal.
Right. So in that example, we talked about how we could take that hold time, use computer vision, use a simple web-based flow to collect some images, use computer vision to identify what are the devices, what are their statuses, what do I see on their screens, etc. Or what does the paperwork show me, right? What is their receipt? When did they purchase it? Who is the customer? And then when the agent comes on the phone, they already have that information and they can move forward. Now, the next step we talked about was monitoring interactions with agents, whether those are visual support sessions or transcripts. Why is it important that AI starts by monitoring and learning from agents rather than just ingesting information?
This one goes back to actually understanding how AI works. Most of our customers were under the assumption that they have great knowledge base, great articles, push them into the LLM, and everything is smooth from there. No. Documentation update is usually trailing behind. And most of your knowledge is actually tribal knowledge, meaning when you actually listen to the call transcripts, the voice call transcripts, or the chat transcripts, you're amazed to find that the human agent is paused in the middle, consulted with a tier 2, tier 3 support, and then gave them an answer to the customer, which is not registered anywhere. It's not documented anywhere. And our goal is to take the tribal knowledge and extract from it actionable knowledge that you can actually put into use. Meaning everything that it's me and him on the contact center who know how to solve something, but it's not really written anywhere formally. Once
Right.
we pick it up from calls again and again in a repeated pattern, we actually convert it into a Q&A certified bank of answers because we've seen it used more than enough times with a positive reaction that it actually solves the problem. And then tribal knowledge becomes written knowledge, which is a capital. The second thing that you can do with transcripts is actually trace how the support are being, or your support sessions are being conducted. And you can extract what is the optimal or the recommended support flow. And then you can
Sure.
take your junior tier 1 agent and walk him in the right course of action.
So that's really interesting. So you're talking about augmenting your tier one agents through a co-pilot or an assistant. And the second thing you talked about there is the difference between providing an answer and providing a solution. So step-by-step guidance. Can you tell us more about the difference between an answer and a solution? And the difference between how you deploy an LLM as its baseline versus using some kind of cognitive middleware to enable a solution?
Yes, I'll describe it by quoting a few of our customers. When you just give answers, meaning how do you visit something? How do you set a new PIN code? How do you connect to a Wi-Fi network? How do you do action X? How do you achieve it? Or what does ROI actually means? In this scenario, and I'm quoting our customers, you actually expect the agent to know how to triage, how to debug, and what to ask. Okay? And this requires actually a long training, meaning you need to be at least a few months, or in other cases, few years on the contact center floor and be very experienced.
To
Now,
train that
when you go,
agent,
that's
the
right, to
human.
train the agent, to train the human agent. Um, when you go into flows, into solution, consider it as the great equalizer, meaning you have a very senior technician sitting down there with you, only it's LLM driven. It's not a real human that has to sit with you. And he listens in. He walks you. He can tell you what you're doing right or wrong, or how to take a specific detour if needed. And that's the great equalizer between a very junior technician that can actually excel and he can walk the floor on the contact center, or someone that has no idea what is the right next step, and he will simply, by the way, he will schedule a technician visit or just send it to the wrong tier 2 level because he doesn't know what to do.
Sure. So in theory, what you're saying is with what why couldn't an LLM provide that step-by-step instruction? What is it about LLMs that make it a challenge? And how do you overcome that?
LLM, by design, can ingest large portion of information, like, by the way, that's what it stands for, large language models, like gigas of information. That's the goal. Um, and then it is simply designed to provide you an answer. It is not equipped with the knowledge of how to achieve a specific goal. We're actually taking this in another approach. Instead of just ask me anything and I'll shoot up any reply you would like, I'm actually working in a goals-based approach, meaning we're actually assigning specific goals as part of the support flows to the LLM. That's the goal that we're taking, to make sure that it's not simply that the LLM will just give a reply to anything that the LLM is being asked. The LLM can make sure that you are using it to obtain a specific set of goals, because that's what we are here for eventually. Not just to say, wow, how cool is generative AI? No, it can actually take me to reach a specific business objective. That's the goal.
Right. So
Mhm.
what if I'm going to reinterpret this, what you're saying is an LLM provides the ability to have that natural, more intuitive human-like interaction to ingest all of that information. But in order to get it to follow a business process or achieve a goal, you need a middleware or a more specialized application that can teach and guide the LLM as to how to guide the agents, but they don't do that natively or naturally.
You need to tell the LLM what you're actually looking for, which is not just spitting out a lot of information. You need to verify that the LLM is doing it while being cost effective. As an
Mm-hmm.
example, by the way, 80% of the calls in the contact center tend to repeat themselves. If you're being asked on the same question again and again, why utilize the LLM again and again? In just
Right.
pay more on the tokens. That's not the right approach. This is exactly where you start to bleed money, and then you start to compete with how much does a human cost me against how much does an LLM token cost me. And you
Right.
don't want to be in this race. That's a race condition that no one wants to be. Okay? That's exactly the
Mm-hmm.
goal.
Now, you've been focusing a lot on the contact center. Why would you start with CX automation in a contact center? And what does it look like to jump from the contact center into customer facing, AI agents and AI interactions?
So, as we talked about the phased approach, the evolution approach, the evolution approach is actually, it is designed to give the enterprise customers more confidence and more accuracy level as they move along in the process. Meaning you start by having the human in the middle. That's the goal. The human is between the end customer, the end user, the human, and then the LLM assists the human agent. The goal is
Okay.
that you will have an high confidence level, which will allow you to move the human agent and actually have the LLM interacting directly as a human-like agent directly with the end user. After it has been refined enough, it actually proved itself to be accurate enough on the contact center, and it learned enough from support session, so now it can actually take self-service calls on its own. So next time you pick up the phone and you call your home security provider, you call your retail provider or your ISP provider, it doesn't matter. Someone will answer the call and it will sound very human-like. And you won't know the difference between the human and the machine, but that's a machine behind the scene.
Right. So what you're advocating for is, just to repeat, in order to avoid the risk, the risk and exposure of bringing LLMs direct to customers, start in the contact center where it's a data-rich environment. Agents are incentivized to handle calls correctly to resolve issues, so they have a reason to want to adopt the AI. Prove it, let the AI learn through reinforcement learning in the contact center, and then
Mhm.
gradually, when you find the use cases um, where the AI is proven to be highly, highly accurate on a repeated basis in the contact center, you can begin rolling that out to customers as human supervised automation and eventually unsupervised automation, but only once you have that level of confidence that the system has been thoroughly trained on not only your formal knowledge, but your unstructured data or your tribal knowledge. Is that correct?
That's actually precise, correct.
Uh, I should work in this industry. Um, so you talked a lot about tier one agents, and we've talked about how they're incentivized and the contact centers are a data rich environment. What are the challenges with managing tier one agents? And why is this the right place, such a great place to start for CX automation?
I think that the way usually tier one agents are structured is the great place for the LLM technology to actually flourish. Why is that? Tier one agents usually have a high turnover rates. We see among our customers in Asia Pacific, in Western Europe, and in Northern America that are usually looking for a place with native language speakers. It can be native Spanish speakers. For example, Spanish customers, we look for contact centers in Latin America. Okay. North American enterprise customers, we look for contact centers in Central America, as an example, and so on. And these tier one agents in the remote places suffer from long training, high turnover rate. Among few industries, you have high seasonality. For example, if you're selling thermostats or heating or cooling devices, then when the heating season is coming up or the cooling season is coming up, you have a spike in your support calls when everyone are turning on their radiators or their air conditioning. Doesn't matter. And then the way that they're handling it today is simply, by the way, hire more seasonal workers because they need someone to take the boom that is about to come of the support calls coming in. And this is exactly where LLM can be your greatest assistant. It can learn throughout the year. You can put in, again, for all of the repeating issues in front of your customers. It is trained, it's coached. You can bring it to high accuracy. And it can be, by the way, guarded by the human, meaning the human agent actually replaces its position in this chain of value, meaning it's not the human handling the support session with the end user and the LLM assisting the human agent. Now the LLM is actually assisting the end user, and the LLM can reach out to the human agent if it gets stuck for some reason. So the LLM is always in the front. And that's probably your most loyal employee that never goes to sleep. And then think about it this way. Today, the utilization rate of voice support agent is 1-to-1, meaning one human agent can take one call simultaneously. That's it. Think about it that LLM can support multiple support calls in parallel. And all of a sudden, one human voice support agent can assist multiple LLM calls if they need any human assistance so you can tell the LLM what to do and how to continue from there. And if worse comes to worse, it can always deflect, meaning it gives you the ultimate flexibility on how you want to manage and handle any spike of calls coming in.
Great, thank you. So as we're nearing the end, I just want to recap a little bit of what we said, and then we're going to take a couple of questions. We talked about the incredible promise of CX automation. The introduction of automated computer vision applications, generative AI, and the ability to build these multisensory models holds the power to deliver native, intuitive experiences that feel very human-like, that are very personal and human-centric for customers. However, there's a lot of risk. LLMs, particularly in the service and customer onboarding space, are they're a bit unwieldy today. We talked about the need for cognitive infrastructure that can prevent hallucinations, that will minimize cost, okay, that will ensure accuracy, that will make sure that the LLM and the AI ecosystem, the AI solution ecosystem, has access to the right knowledge, both your tribal knowledge and your formal and documented knowledge. Ultimately, you don't want to recreate an FAQ page at many times the cost. We also talked about service context, and that a generic LLM solution doesn't necessarily understand what are the steps or struggles to follow the particular logic and steps in a service flow. However, we also talked about the potential. If we look at an interested audience within the contact center, which is a controlled environment, it's safe, and the ability to train AI agents in the contact center just like a human agent by having them observe calls, help, start to support and augment agents, first with something more basic, becoming more advanced, and ultimately becoming as capable as, if not more capable than, a tier one agent, which is really incredible to think about. We talked about the role of human in the middle in terms of making sure that you have human beings that are part of this process, right, to validate and make sure that the AI works. And we also talked about how eventually the contact center provides an ideal environment where you'll have lots of human eyes regularly interacting and refining. When we think about what this means for you as we're closing today, is really think about the right first steps. Okay, and when we're speaking with customers, this means that A, you need to have demonstrable ROI, real impact out of the gate. As much as we would all love to see, this is an investment in innovation, if your first steps with CX automation powered by AI can't show real business impact, you're going to struggle to continue to drive investment in it. Some of the low-hanging fruits are look for motivated users who want to adopt the AI with minimal investment in training or process change. Look for technology partners that can bring you specialized expertise in your domain. This can be ideally in your vertical and more specifically in your use case, okay? This will give you the space to take your first steps without first learning how to crawl, right? Because we all know that in this world, we are within 18 months, we will be running. It's not a question of if, but it's a question of how fast. So by finding the right partner and starting internally, you can learn and develop your AI capabilities, strategy, and team in a phased approach. You can minimize your risk, and as we said, most importantly, set the stage for further development. So we have two questions from the audience. I think we may only have time for one, but right now our attendees are staying on the line, so maybe we'll go a bit over. The first one I'll take is, how do you demonstrate the ROI of AI? We typically break this down into leading and lagging indicators. So a leading indicator is, will I make more money tomorrow, or will it save me money tomorrow? A lagging indicator is, have I saved money or have I generated money? So typically, many organizations start by looking at a leading indicator. This would be something like your CS metrics. So our customer, does your NPS, your CSAT, or your customer experience, customer effort scores, are they improving after interacting with anything that's AI automated, or even an agent that's had AI help them. So how is that improving? Your lagging indicator is your real ROI. And this is what the CFO and the board are going to be looking at. Because ultimately, the reason that people are looking at automation is that this will power your business at scale. As you reduce the amount of human overhead required to scale your business, that doesn't mean you're going to be letting go of all those people in your contact center today. But what it does mean is that they're going to be able to handle more higher customer volumes because you have more AI automation and augmentation. So we typically measure that by looking at cost savings. These are truck rolls avoided, calls avoided, your self-service containment rate, your cost per call, your average handle time. All of these are cost savings. On the other hand, you can look at things like revenue generation, your upsells, your customer loyalty, your average customer lifetime value. These are all revenue signals that will tell you that you are making more money as a result of this automation. It it's impossible to give over this entire framework in a minute or two on a webinar. But if you want to understand the right steps for yourself or for your enterprise, please reach out to us. We're happy to walk you through this. And this is actually something we spend days working with every one of our AI partners and clients to make sure that they have the right use case, the right team, and that the solutions are tailored to what will drive the results that they need. Because ultimately, if you want to avoid the AI hype and drive real sustainable business value, you need to focus on your business outcomes. Hagai, our last question is for you. We talked about the AI infrastructure providers, many of them being our partners in Microsoft and Google and Amazon, and use case or application specific solutions that have greater depth, like what we're building at TechC. What's the difference between your approach, where there's greater depth and expertise, versus an off-the-shelf solution that you can buy from, any of the massive cloud infrastructure providers?
Off-the-shelf solution are a great place to start with, but it's not the end position. I mean, right now we see all the big players on the market, whether this is Google with Gemini, Microsoft with Azure OpenAI, or AWS coming in with Bedrock. And they see themselves right now more and more as the platform player and not as the turnkey solution player. Meaning they will give others the platform of the LLM. They will maintain the foundation models. Foundation models, that's the game of the giants. Meaning it will be mastered by the giant corporations on the market. No doubts about it. On top of it, there will be the smaller companies such as TechC developing the solutions on top of these platforms. So you need to choose your platform, the one which is suited best for you, and then select the vendor running on top of these platforms to obtain your business goals, whether this is for your contact center or self-service or any other use case. That's precisely the issue. In TechC, by the way, we chose to be LLM agnostic from day one. Why, by the way? We have no idea who will win the LLM war. Just like 10 or 12 years ago, it wasn't clear who will win the browsers war. And by the way, back then, even Internet Explorer was still a competitor, believe it or not. So whether our customers would like to go with Google with Gemini, or with Azure OpenAI, with Bedrock, or here, or anything else, we chose to go with an LLM agnostic approach because most of them, by the way, will just give more or less the same foundation models. And the goal is to build the right middleware on top of it to serve your business objectives. So that's the core difference.
Okay, thank you. So if you're interested in learning more about Sophie AI, which, this was not a hard sell, we're here to provide industry education on this call. But if you're interested in Sophie AI and what we're doing in CX automation, both for customers for onboarding new customers, full customer lifecycle automation, including late stage, post-purchase customer support, etc., please feel free to be in touch. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for all the great comments during the webinar. If we didn't address your question, because we had a lot of them, so thank you all for participating. Please reach out to us at techsy.me, fill out the request a demo form or the contact us form, and we will be sure to be in touch. Some of you did have very deep technical questions on LLMs and deterministic modeling. Hagai would be happy to talk to you about that for hours and hours on end. This is what we talk about over drinks late at night when we're having fun and on the road. So please feel free to reach out, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day.
Thank you.